everybody. Welcome back to the Haven Podcast. Here with my brother Ezra.
It's good.
How you feeling?
Feeling good.
Yeah.
Feeling good. A little tired after work, but feeling good.
Yeah, we're doing this not long after you wrapped up.
It actually, it was crazy. I was thinking whenever I said yes to the extra person that said to come, I was like, ooh, maybe that was me being too quick to just be like, oh yeah, just pull up.
We'll do it.
But now I literally finished 4 minutes before I thought I was going to be, we even needed to be done. So
yeah,
that was nice. I feel like God gave me a little extra boost, so.
It's good.
Yeah. How about you? How are you feeling?
Doing better than last time that we recorded, but I think last time
that's right.
It's kind of crazy. Just we had kind of a longer break, so it's definitely been a jump since last time. I just feel like how if you're driving down the road and they'll have the road all torn up and have it all coned off or whatever, and they're doing stuff under the road. That's what I feel like I'm in right now. It's not bad, and it's not from before it was the house is burning down and it was destruction. Now it's it feels more just I'm under construction.
Yep.
It's just now we're in the phase of we're gonna do some work below the surface and we're gonna get this thing built back up. So it's not a comfortable feeling, but it's good. It's good. So
I've actually been really excited to do another episode. And I'm just with the stuff that you've been talking to me about just since the last episode and everything. I'm just ooh, I'm excited to see how your perspective has even just changed in this past month. And maybe not even just a perspective thing as much as it's just an understanding of just oh, I don't know if your perspective has always been off as much as it's just lacked information. So now I feel you're just getting a better understanding of the perspective that you already had a good feeling of. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes when I be thinking about something, I'm ooh, I wonder what Luke would have to say about this, just in this particular area now that you've been learning more things.
Yeah.
So I actually really have been looking forward to this episode. 'Cause I'm ooh, I wonder how that will manifest itself in these conversations. And I want people to see it too, because I've just learned so much in this past month just from the stuff that you're learning. Because you're telling me stuff and I'm going, dang. I'm you'll either you'll text me something or just be after a conversation and I'll be oh my goodness.
yeah.
My world just got broken up just because of and again, it might have more effect on me just because I grew up with you and know a little bit more of your history. So then seeing you reach these conclusions about certain things or just whatever, it's really forcing me to look at things because we had a similar upbringing because of parents and circumstances and environment. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's really, really helpful for people to see that.
Yeah.
So I just want to encourage you to be open about that.
Yeah.
Because this is stuff that everyone needs to hear. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even gassing that just because it's you. Literally, everyone needs to know this. I was having a conversation with a client today, and I can't I'm not gonna share too big of details, but he had some serious deaths in his life and crazy experiences, and he was yeah, I just didn't really cry. I just kind of what, and I was yeah, you can't just write that off as not being an emotional guy.
Yep.
I used to just think oh wow, you're just one of those guys that just doesn't really that is not. No.
Nope.
No, and I dug a little deeper, and just oh well kind of tell me more about it, whatever. And he kind of shared some more stuff, and I was okay, I see how you're your way of coping is whatever.
Yeah.
But it's definitely just made me more aware of the fact that no one is just not an emotional person. And that's really convicted me on areas of my life of if I'm not seeing a lot of expression here, there's an issue.
And I think a lot of times I think about it in the vein of not showing what we would say are the negative emotions, anger and frustration or sadness or grief, the things that it sounds like that person was going through too. But I also don't always do the positive ones well either. I don't outwardly show my happiness or joy or love and affection, even those ones that we would say are the really good ones. I don't even really do those ones either. So typically that falls into that too. So then it's okay, well maybe you feel good in the moment that you didn't sit and cry for a week when whoever died, but that also probably means that you're not being really
Yep.
outwardly expressively
Yep.
like loving and peaceful and kind
Yep.
and stuff to the people that are around you too. And that's one that you definitely don't want to miss out on either.
Yep.
So
I think I've like just only had an extreme of one or the other.
mhm.
And I think I just picked an emotion for like positive emotions and picked an emotion for negative emotions and just only showed one of those two depending on whether or not it was like a positive situation. So it was like either I'm only like overly like cheerful, maybe you would call that, or like maybe to the point of like euphoric, but like that's how it was for every positive emotion. Like there wasn't like there was no diversity of, you see what I'm saying, or it was like crash out like grieving. It was like, whoa, this isn't like right
Yeah.
either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
'Cause I don't know if, and the differences between me and you of you and I probably showing more emotion, but just in that way. Whereas you, it was probably not even, would you say it was even much of either of those?
I mean, I really just have always just felt really flat. So I wouldn't say I was ever on either one of those extremes for sure. I would typically, if I was going to show one, I would typically show the more seemingly positive one. But that's really just because of who I felt like was watching and like what they were going to think about me. So then I'd think like, yeah, this person just got me a gift. I'm going to show a positive emotion here, but it's because I want them to think that I liked what they got me, not like as an actual like response to to a circumstance. So it's still, even the times that I did show those, or that I did show sadness or something, it was much more about how other people were viewing me than an actual genuine response to a circumstance.
So you knew that you needed to be showing some sort of emotion.
I knew it was
interesting.
like culturally acceptable to do that. So then I would just almost like act out what it was. But it wasn't from an actual overflow of like how I was feeling.
So then can the same thing be said in the reverse, where you had strong emotions or feelings about something, but since you felt like it probably wasn't culturally acceptable to feel that way, then you like would suppress?
So then those are the ones that I would push down more, yeah.
What are like some examples of those?
I mean, people just saying super sideways stuff to me and just acting like it doesn't affect me, like, or people saying super sideways stuff to you guys or to Anna or whoever. Like, people, with the phrase that I've been saying recently is like, I've just let people get like too comfy.
Yep.
Like, everyone is just too comfy around me. They feel like they could talk any sort of way about me, the people I care about, like what I do, how I dress. You know what I mean? Like, I've just let people get way too comfy. So then people would say stuff that I should have said, yep, we went over the line on that one. Or even if it was just like I didn't think that was funny. And they try to make a joke. Like, I just let people get too comfy and would just suppress those things, and instead of like just think like, I don't want there to be conflict, or how are they going to view me if I stand against that, I would just laugh along. So that's the biggest example, at least, that I've been working through recently. But, yeah.
How do you feel like that's like affected like the relationships around you?
I mean, people being that comfortable around me, the people that would maybe be the ones that are instigating some of those scenarios, like, there's not typically any depth to those relationships, and there's also not typically a lot of like respect in those relationships. It's very surface, and we don't typically know each other very well. And then for the people that I am in deeper relationships with, they don't feel safe because there's like, there's no guard up. Like, anything can happen when I'm around him, and I don't know if he'll help me.
Yep.
So, yeah, those would be the main two things. Like, the people that I don't know as well, it's going to stay that way. And the people that I do know well, like, they're just not going to feel safe around me.
When I, like, first was met with the, like, reality that that's how I'd been living, and was, like, hit with that, like, conviction, it definitely, like, it definitely was like shame for a little bit. And I'm not saying that was the correct thing to feel, because that would just be me trying to like pay for my mistakes. But like, how did you, when you first like realized like, whoa, this is what I've been doing, like, how did you handle that, and like, how are you handling that like now?
Yeah, so like, I definitely would say I'm still in the midst of that, and I would say, at least where I'm at right now, just to be completely vulnerable with it, like, I've realized it, but it hasn't like hit me enough for me to make a change yet, because it's still, even though I noticed that that's like not okay, other people's opinions still matter more than that to me. So what I'm trying to work through right now is just like getting to a spot where it's like, okay, the truth of this means even more to me than what other people think of me, and I just think that's going to take a lot of work. So I still am working through that.
No, I think that's a great response, because all of that stuff is buried under other things. Like responding and like going against the current is a byproduct of something else that's needing to happen underneath. And so that should, because anything like external that changes quickly is false, because it'll just flip to the other extreme, and now you're just like a bully you're just bullying bullies, and then it's like, well, did I actually like mature and change here, or did I just flip from going from hot to cold, or from cold to hot? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's good for people to see this stage of it. I think it's really often, especially with social media, that we're only seeing like when we get to the point where the external fruits change. And then it goes like, oh well, dang, like you point out this problem, and then you're just like changed now, like dang, like how do I get there? I think it's like good to be open about this process, not just for onlookers, but for yourself. Because it gives you like well, I'm just list off a few things that comes to mind. It gives you like a mile marker. Boom. When I speak this out loud, I'm like, okay, this is where I'm at right now. B, it also like kind of holds you accountable, because you're verbally expressing like an internal thing, and now like there's light has been shined on it. And then 3, it also like gives you something tangible and gives you a way to like look at it from an external perspective. 'Cause I think sometimes when stuff is just in our head about things, it's hard for us to like really deal with it until we just say it out loud. And like now you can just go like, okay, boom, like this is where I'm at. Oh, I can kind of like step back and look at that now and be like, okay, like this is my situation. Like where do I go from here? You know what I'm saying? But I just think that's really good for people to hear. Kind of like in the message at the students' night, where you're talking about how like Billie Eilish, she's doing these interviews, and we're only seeing the year progress, and not the 365 days full of all of a day's worth of decisions that led to all the growth that we see after. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of gives us a false idea sometimes of what growth looks like. Where we're not just like, she didn't wake up one day and was just like, you know what, I'm gonna get like 40 billion streams on Spotify. You know what I'm saying? But we have to be honest with where we're at now to get where we need to be. So I just think that's like really powerful for people to see that, especially as someone who's in ministry, who's married, you're in a lot of like really crazy positions that God has put you in. And I think if people don't see this, they're gonna think that A, they have to have everything figured out before they can walk into that space, which is actually just trying to be independent from God. And B, it's gonna give them a false sense of idolization over people in those positions, thinking that they have to be held to a particular standard of perfection and having everything figured out before they'll submit to their like wisdom or authority. And it's just like, no. You know what I'm saying? So I just think this is just like a really powerful time of your life, and I want people to like see that. You know what I'm saying? And in both of us and whatever's going on, you know? I just think that's really interesting.
The other thing that I thought whenever I first started going through some of this stuff was I wanted to change it, but I think the reason I wanted to change it is because, oh, well, the people that I care about, like I was saying before, maybe don't feel protected or don't feel like I respect them or whatever. So I've got to change it, and then they'll think I'm a good person. So I just flipped my idol from one to the other. And then now it's like, oh, now I'm trying to change because I want my wife and siblings and people I care about to know I'm a good person, I'm going to stand up for them. And so it's a slower grind to get to where you're actually doing it for the right reason. And it's like, no, like I'm standing up for you because I believe that that's what Jesus would do, and that I'm trying to be like him, and that I'm just standing up against wrong because it's wrong, or I'm standing up for the oppressed because that's just what I'm supposed to do. And that's just like point blank it. And that like, regardless of which side of the people think I'm a good or bad person, like I'm just going to do what Jesus said to do. And that is, a slower grind, like what you were saying, and one that will take a lot longer than even if I just did it for the people I cared about for a second. That would be a quick turnaround. And there would be some external fruit really quick, but then eventually that would, like you were saying, go to an extreme at some point.
The reason for protecting is not just for the sake of the person who is either a victim of something or in like a weaker or a vulnerable position, but like, since we're doing everything out of love, which is the reason why God does everything he does, like he does it to, like, justice, righteous judgment and justice is like for the oppressed and the oppressor. It's to set both of them free. Because if we can look at things from God's perspective, we actually see that the oppressor is a slave to evil. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And he's just being used by the ultimate oppressor to enslave others to evil. So it's like, I think that righteous justice is like, okay, boom, like I'm doing this out of love for you and for you. Like, that does not mean that we're chilling out and being like passive and be like, hey, don't do that, buddy. Like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think that's where I've had to really be humbled in, because I'll go to the other extreme of being like, oh, I'm about to kill this guy. It's like, whoa, like the reason for you protecting this person was actually so you could guide him and point him towards Christ as well, so he can be set free as well. I remember this is probably kind of a dark topic, but this is when I was like first really like hit really hard with this. Someone that I've been helping from the streets had almost got sex trafficked by a ring that's in our city. And she's telling me all this crazy stuff. And I started doing a bunch of research to help with all these things, right? And I started praying for like people who were, for her and for these particular other women who actually did get caught by this guy. And then, like while I'm praying, God was like, you need to pray for the sex traffickers that I'll free them too. And like, oh man, that was like really hard, especially because I like love this person that I met, and like I love her so much, and like seeing the way that shook her, I've never seen her like that before. Like she's to this day has not told me all the details. Like she just was like, had that like 1,000 yard stare. Like that's how like crazy this situation was. And that just like really brought me to a different level of humility of like, dang God, like, whew, like your love is different. Your love is really different. And I've got to keep that in mind, whether it's something as extreme as that or as little as someone makes like some little passing comment. You know what I'm saying? Like that's gotta be my heart behind it. But like, I don't get there tomorrow. Yeah. That's like there's a deep rooted part of my humanity in me that's been twisted that God is needing to straighten out so that I'm able to actually see things that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's powerful too. And like, there's a difference, I think, between like getting justice, whether it's for someone else or for ourselves, and just like feeling the need for justice. So like, we have the feeling for wanting to get justice, and that's a God-given thing that he gave us.
Amen.
He gave us the thing in our heart that sees something like that and goes, oh, that is not right. But then God says like, yeah, but like vengeance is mine. Like justice is mine. You feel it.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of your God-given image, is that you see the thing and you have that same feeling I have, but it's not yours. So we have to be able to, when we feel that tension, like feel it, don't suppress it like we were talking about before. Don't act like it's not there. But then I'm also not going to try and get my own vengeance.
Yep.
I'm going to feel that and I'm going to go, oh, how can I just like help both parties realize the God-given image that they have, and how can I show both of you like there's a standard that where you're missing the mark here, and like not in a way of payback or anything like that. I'm just like trying to like lift you to a standard. So I think that's important too.
That's
like
good.
That's not a bad emotion to feel.
Yep.
God goes, feel it, but the vengeance is mine.
Yep. Yeah, that's good. And I think that's where me and my pride, I want to have like a blueprint for what to do in those moments so that justice can be served. And just be like, okay, God, whatever. But I think that's a little bit more, I'm not saying it has to only be this, but I think it's a little bit more of a situation by situation going, okay, God, what's my responsibility that you've given me in this moment to do? And trusting that it's your justice that's coming to pass and not me trying to like lay down the law. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I think sometimes like the responsibility that God gives us in seeing his justice come to pass doesn't feel like justice is being done.
Yep.
But also other times it almost can be misconstrued as like, whoa, did I just like do that?
Yeah.
Yes and no. You know what I'm saying? But I think that requires just, again, a lot of dependability on God and trust and going, okay, God, like, I'm not going to try to take the steering wheel here. I'm going to trust whatever. Because I mean, like, or else why would like God put us in these situations where we're seeing an injustice? Like, why is he putting us in that? I think it's again of God want to use us to be a partner in his will being done. I just too often, it's like that last podcast episode of me talking about like responsibility. Like I used to see it as something that I had to do by my own strength or like whatever. But it's me going, okay. Or if it looks like me like running in this dude's house and like dragging these women out of here and getting them out, like maybe that's my responsibility sometimes, and that's a very hands-on look. But like I can't expect every situation to look like whatever, or I'm gonna completely negate God and his power and his sovereignty, and I'm just gonna rush in headstrong and just be like, oh, do this. Also, sometimes it looks like me just going to my room and praying.
Right.
But I can't take that as that's the answer that answers all things. And now something happens and I'm just like, see y'all, I'm gonna go pray about it and pray that God figures this out. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great thing to point out, like the vengeance is mine.
Yeah.
That's really good.
That's good. I think that just like with what you were just saying, attention and being attuned to the Spirit is just so important there. So I think that'd be a good way to close it out, is just like praying that, first of all, like we were talking about at the beginning, that the Holy Spirit would help us to be able to feel some of these emotions, not suppress them, like just really see them for what they are. But then when we feel them, not letting them take control of our lives, like flipping it then and saying, okay, like I'm feeling this, God, you gave this to me, like what do I do with it?
Yep.
And being in tune with the Spirit there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
let's
a
pray.
good point.
God, thank you for just bringing us back to this place to be able to do this again. God, we just want to take a minute to pause and say that you're holy, that you're worthy of praise and honor. Oh God, you are in complete control. So God, even when things feel out of control for us, when emotions hit and we don't know what to do with them, God, I pray that you would help our response to not be to control them and suppress them, or to control them and forget them. But God, that we would take every thought captive, that we would take these emotions and things that we feel captive and say, God, I know this is something that you created. What was I supposed to have a response in this? How was I supposed to respond? How did you design me to respond? And help us to not be controlled by our emotions in that point and run in headstrong or hang back trying to make sure that we don't ruffle feathers. God, help us to be in tune with your Spirit in a case-by-case situation and to be able to feel these emotions and go, okay, this is what you want us to do. and not just so that we look good, but so that we can bring glory to you, because God, your way is so much different than the world's way, and we want to be able to respond how you want us to, and that can be the heaping coals on people's heads that will alert them, and they'll say, oh wow, wait, this is different. What is that? I want that too. So God, thank you for Ezra. Thank you for the people that are listening to this. I pray that it would be something that's beneficial to them as well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.